Good evening, and welcome to the council meeting of January 30th, 2023. The meeting is being live streamed on Facebook Live, and the most up-to-date meeting package is on Town of Kentville website. I wish to take a moment to acknowledge the passing of Ron Gerard, the father of Councillor Craig Gerard and the founding member of the Town of Kentville Investment Committee. Ron was a longtime resident and business owner in Kentville. Condolences have been sent on behalf of council. This meeting is called to order. Have all of the councillors received and reviewed their meeting packages? Does any member of council have information pertaining to a matter before this council which has not been publicly circulated? I will remind members of council that we are in decision-making mode and we should be mindful of our decision-making wheel. We have committed to making balanced and respectful decisions and adhering to our code of conduct. This council, through policy and by motion, has adopted Robert's Rules as our rules of order, our parliamentary procedure. We will be voting by electronic means for all votes except administrative. Are there any conflict of interest issues we should be aware of before the meeting commences? I note that all members of council are present and we have quorum. We have been provided with a proposed agenda. Are there any further additions to the agenda? CAO, any changes to the agenda?
I have no changes, Mayor Snow.
Thank you. Councillor Zabian.
Thank you, Mayor Snow. I have two items. The first one is the Planning Advisory Committee. I'd like to have a discussion on that. I noticed a social media post today saying that we're looking for members. At the last meeting, though, we didn't.
Okay, no,
Yeah.
please save that for discussion.
Okay.
Have you got an RFD on the matter?
Yeah, I have my information here written down.
No, a request for decision. Have you submitted a request for decision?
Well, no, I just saw it on the internet about an hour ago, so.
Okay, and so I will put it to council for a decision on adding it to the agenda. So council, we have a request to add this item to the agenda, and Councillor Zabian, you are moving that?
Yes.
Okay, and a seconder, please. Councillor Maxwell, thank you. So we have a request to add the Planning Advisory Committee post from Facebook to the agenda. All those in favor? All right, and the motion is carried. All those opposed? The motion is carried. Thank you. And your second?
Yeah, thank you. The other issue is the human resource policy. I'd like to add that to the agenda.
Okay, do you have an RFD on that?
I don't.
Okay, thank you. So council cannot be expected to make decisions on matters that they've not been provided with a request for decision or details. If you wish this item on the agenda, it is requested that you draft an RFD. However, I will put it to council for a decision on adding it to the agenda. So I assume you are moving that?
I am.
Thank you. And a seconder, please. Councillor Maxwell, thank you. All those in favor of adding an HR policy to the agenda? For discussion, Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Worship. If we're having discussion around it, my recommendation would be that we table it until we have an opportunity to review it. I haven't reviewed it just because it wasn't on the agenda for this evening. I have no problem discussing it. I just don't understand. I don't understand why we are, and that would probably be in an RFD, but also too, I have not reviewed it because it wasn't on the agenda tonight.
Okay.
And I know it was sent out, but I didn't have an opportunity to review it, so
Okay,
that's just my comment.
Thank you for that, Deputy Mayor. However, we have one motion on the floor that is, the tabling is subsidiary to the current motion. So we will move forward with a vote on the motion to add the HR policy to the agenda, which has been moved and seconded. All those in favor of adding the HR policy to the agenda? All those opposed? And the motion is defeated. Thank you. Councillor Zabian, did you have something to add?
Thank you, Mayor Snow. I don't know if this is the opportune moment, but maybe Really, it's not the policy that I want to go through. I just want to know how it's a legal policy when we have an old one. And maybe we could ask the solicitor. I asked Solicitor Matar last week, and he told me that I would have to ask, I
Okay.
guess with the will of council, but,
Okay, well, I believe that council has expressed its will, so if you could put your request in an RFD, it can be added to the
so,
agenda for
Diana,
the
I
next
don't have a
one.
problem doing that. I'm just wondering why it's such a hard thing to answer a simple question of how we have a policy when we have an existing one. That's the only thing I want to know. I didn't even go through the whole thing yet, like, as
Councillor
deputy
Zabian,
mayor.
we are now approving an agenda.
No, I
So
understand
you-
what we're
no,
doing
you're-
there, so
I know,
I
but you're
totally
going into
understand.
You're going
I-
into discussion now on a matter that
Because
has
I
been
can't get an answer to a
defeated.
question, so that's why I'm
No,
discussing.
you have an answer to the question.
I don't, I asked 3 weeks ago here, and I was
Councillor
told.
Zabian?
Yes,
Council has spoken, and we are requesting that you put an RFD to council
All
for
right.
this matter. Thank
Okay.
you. All right, so we have we have one matter to add to the agenda, and we've already had Planning Advisory Committee was here at council in an RFD, so it will go under 4B as old business arising. Thank you. And if I could have someone move the adoption of the agenda as amended. Councillor York, thank you. Deputy Mayor, thank you for the second. All those in favor? Those opposed? The motion is carried. Thank you. The minutes of the November 28th, 2022 council meeting have been distributed for review. If there are no changes, the minutes are approved as distributed. If there are changes, the recording secretary will annotate the minutes in red. No changes? All right, moving right along. We move on to business arising, and our first matter of business comes from our December 12th meeting of CAC. And based on past actions within this chamber, we as a council are committing to not only creating a safe and respectful workplace, but also not tolerating mean-spirited attacks on the CAO, council's only employee, members of staff, or citizens through action or tone. The commitment was made by council in camera on December 12th, 2022 Committee of Council meeting, but was not formalized by motion due to departure of 2 members of council. This council commits to a respectful workplace for all staff, including the CAO, and this includes all meetings, public meetings, and exchanges with staff. As members of council, we can disagree without being disagreeable. It's our responsibility to question the execution of operational and budget matters. However, we approach that responsibility matters as such. The following motion is put to council. That council approve the following special rule of order in accordance with Robert's Rules 216 rule. In the event that a member of council speaks or acts in a manner contrary to the code of conduct towards the CAO or a member of staff, a point of order shall be immediately called. The member violating the code will be offered the opportunity to apologize for their action, and if not forthcoming, will be asked to leave the chamber and the meeting. The minutes shall be annotated with a breach of conduct disrespect. If someone could move that, please. Deputy Mayor, thank you. And a seconder? Councillor Gerard, thank you. It has been moved and seconded that council approve the special rule of order. Is there any discussion on this matter? Councillor Maxwell.
Thank you. I have a question. I have no problem with this. Personally, I would like to see it, it speaks to a workplace around the horseshoe, and I would like to see it extend to every person. This is our workplace as well, and there have been a number over my terms of rude comments thrown around towards me and towards other members of council. And sometimes comments that are directed come from that type of thing. You know, when you're being shot at with a lot of different, rude comments, you lash back. which is a human nature thing to do. So I would, I would like to extend this a little further and make it not just staff and not just the CAO, but anyone sitting around this horseshoe. That we can discuss later. I think that we have a problem with removing a counselor from a meeting. And I recall an incident where I was going to be asked to leave a meeting. And I believe the solicitor made it quite clear at that time that a counselor could not be voted out of a meeting. And so I'm not entirely sure that this is something that is permissible. And I would like the solicitor to weigh in on this before we adopt this whatever it's called here, workplace rule of order. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Zabian.
Thank you, Mayor Snow. I read this over and I'm just a little well, not confused. I'm trying to understand that whoever calls the point of order is gonna be the judge and jury on whether that person is gonna be asked to leave. So where would lie a complaint if it was the CAO or somebody else in this room who was offended? I mean, wouldn't they wanna put a complaint in themselves about what happened? Perhaps they don't take it as an offensive comment, and so who's judging? I understand the reasoning behind it, I just don't think it looks to me like you say something and somebody else didn't like it, maybe not the person who was receiving it, and so then you're gonna be asked to leave based on what though? Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Worship. So my understanding is when a point of order is called by anyone around the horseshoe, that it is the chair that rules on the point of order, that typically would ask the person who's calling the point of order to explain why they're calling a point of order, and then the chair, that being yourself, would rule on it.
That's
Is that my
correct.
understanding? Sorry, that's my understanding. Is that correct?
That's correct, Deputy Mayor.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. In regards, Councillor Maxwell, to your question with regards to asking a member of council to leave, under the MGA Part 1, paragraph 21.5, the mayor has the ability to eject any member of council or guest from the chamber. And as well, Robert's rules permit the removal of a member.
To the chair.
Certainly, Councillor Maxwell?
Yes. Could you explain then why I was going to be voted out of a meeting?
Councillor Maxwell, that occurred in an in-camera meeting and was not for discussion in open council.
But we had a legal opinion on that. We had a legal opinion that said we couldn't do that. So I'm asking for a legal opinion here.
Okay, thank you. Solicitor, did you wish to speak to what occurred at that meeting?
No, it occurred in camera, and I'm saying that only because I hear you say that. I don't recall the specific incident, so, and it's likely based on the facts. Of course, it's council's prerogative whether they want this new policy to be accompanied by a legal opinion about its impact, and so that's one of the things we could do before it adopts.
Thank you.
That's what I was asking for, not on the past one.
Oh, just a moment, please, so I can turn your mic on.
Thank you. I was asking, and I asked the very first time when I spoke, for the legal opinion on being able to remove a counselor from a meeting. I wasn't really, that was an example I was giving, and you gave me an MGA
That's
citing, but we also had a legal opinion at that other one, and so there seems to be a conflict here between a legal opinion and in the MGA. So I'm asking for an opinion on what's written in this respectful workplace rule of order. Thank you.
So, Counselor Maxwell, for us to move forward with this, would you be willing to move tabling this matter until it has been reviewed by the solicitor?
Certainly.
Okay, so Counselor Maxwell has moved that we table this matter until the next meeting of council, which will be February 27th. And we'll be looking for the solicitor to weigh in on whether or not the authority exists to eject a member of council from the chamber. And if someone could second that, please. Thank you. All those in favor of tabling this motion until the 27th of February? All those opposed, the motion is carried. Thank you. Now we're moving on to our addition to the old business, and that is the Planning Advisory Committee. Councillor Zabian?
Thank you, Mayor Snow. At the CAC meeting in January, there was discussion brought forward by a councillor about having one formed. There was some discussion around it, but it was a CAC meeting, first of all, so nothing would have been ratified. And I'm just a little confused why there's a post on social media saying that a committee is coming when council hasn't voted on it. And as we know, according to the MGA, council establishes committees, and in our own policies too. So I don't know where that came from. I'd like a little more information on how that came to be. Thank you.
Thank you. CAO, did you wish to address that?
Absolutely, thank you. So, coming to that meeting, in that meeting, there was discussion with regards to the formation of a committee. And as I understood, similar to other committees that were formed, the direction, and while no, it wasn't council, the direction was to put a post out to get interest from individuals so that that list could come back to council, so council could consider it at such time they'd be considering forming it. So similar to other committee information, we just used the same framework, put it out there to look for interest. Obviously, it comes back to council with a recommendation similar to what we'd see coming back with the Heritage Committee tonight.
Thank you for that. I read the post a couple of
Just
times.
hang on,
Oh, sorry.
Councillor Zabian. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Thank you for that, CAO. I read it a couple of times and it says that it's coming. It doesn't say that we're gauging interest. I think that's, the wording of it says it's coming. So to me, it looked like a unilateral decision from, I don't know from where. That's what I was coming to ask tonight. So that would be the first thing. And I'm just wondering how, I still don't really have a definitive answer on that. Yeah, and I don't know if the rest of you saw the post. Maybe the rest of you haven't seen it yet to comment, so, but you should check it out. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving on. Councillor Maxwell?
Thank you. At CAC, I asked a question about if we were going to hire a planning director. And I think maybe I need to be a bit more specific with my wording. I would ask the CAO, are we going to hire a planner for the town of Kentville?
CEO?
Certainly a discussion with staff, and we've been very open in our discussions at SAC, that happens the day after CAC and council here, is that as part of our restructuring, we're looking at hiring 2 technical resources for planning and engineering. So that's obviously part of the structure and part of the budget. And so certainly the intent would be that we need planning expertise, but we also need engineering technical expertise. So, there are also other positions that are going to be as part of the budget. But to answer your question, yeah, the intention is that we certainly are going to have a planner as part of our complement. You're welcome.
All right, moving on to our recommendations and reports, and they are arising from CAC meetings on December the 12th and January 9th, and they will be read and moved by Deputy Mayor Savage. Deputy Mayor, you have the call.
Thank you, Your Worship. So the CAC recommendation to council is sanitary sewer interest write-offs. At the December 12th, 2022 meeting of CAC, Director Deb Kroll described the need to write off interest charged to several sanitary sewer accounts in the amount of $834.31. Council Advisory Committee therefore recommends that council approve the write-off of the attached in the amount of $834.31 to the sanitary sewer area service accounts. I so move.
Thank you. And a seconder? Counselor Huntley, thank you. It has been moved and seconded that council approve the write-off of the sanitary sewer area service accounts in the amount of $834.31. Is there any discussion on this matter? There being no discussion, are you ready for the question? The question is that council approve the write-off of the sanitary sewer area service accounts in the amount of $834.31. Voting is now open. Voting is now closed. And the motion is carried. Thank you.
Next one is sundry write-offs at the December 12th, 2022 meeting of CAC. Director Deb Kroll described the need to write off sundry accounts receivable in the amount of $3,060.78. These amounts are not collectible. CAC recommends that council approve the write-off of $3,060.78 to the Town of Kentville sundry receivable. I so move.
Thank you. And a seconder? Councillor York, thank you. It has been moved and seconded that council approve the write-off of sundry accounts receivable in the amount of $3,060.78. Is there any discussion on this matter? There being no discussion, are you ready for the question? The question is that council approve the write-off of the sundry accounts receivable in the amount of $3,060.78. Voting is now open. Voting is now closed. And the motion is carried. Thank you.
The next one is a withdrawal from capital reserves. At the January 9th, 2023 meeting of Council Advisory Committee, CAO Troke presented the report requesting council approval to withdraw $118,793.49 from the town's capital reserve to support the purchase of vehicles, equipment, building upgrades, and a number of other items. CAC recommends that council approve a withdrawal of $118,793.49 from the Town of Kentville Capital Reserve General Allocation. I so move.
Thank you. A seconder, please. Councillor Huntley, thank you. It has been moved and seconded that council approve the withdrawal from the Town of Kentville Capital Reserve General Allocation in the amount of $118,793.49. Is there any discussion on this matter? There being no discussion, are you ready for the question? That council approve the withdrawal from the Town of Kentville Capital Reserve General Allocation in the amount of $118,793.49. Voting is now open. Voting is now closed. And the motion is carried.
Okay, the next recommendation is cash in lieu of parking. At the January 9th, 2023 meeting of CAC, CAO Dan Troke described the cash in lieu of parking for developers and the need to increase this amount. CAC recommends that council approve the annual structural cost increase to the parking space calculation be changed from $1,650 to $2,500. I so move.
Thank you. And a seconder, please. Councillor York, thank you. It has been moved and seconded that council approve the annual structural cost increase to the parking space calculation be changed from $1,650 to $2,500. Is there any discussion on this matter? Are you ready for the question? The question is that council approve the annual structural cost increase to the parking space calculation be changed from $1,650 to $2,500. Voting is now open. Voting is now closed, and the motion is carried. Thank you. Now we move on to our councillor reports. Councillor reports are presented monthly by each member of council detailing their committee and community work in support of the town of Kentville. The report is carried out in accordance with Council Policy G69, and the January reports includes our work since last report on November 28th. The reports will be presented and are part of the record of this meeting. Councillor Gerard.
Thank you, Worship. December 15th, joint fire services, so there is a truck replacement coming for tanker 22, and we were fortunate enough, we got $175,000 for the sale of that truck, and it went just down the road to Port Williams, which is good. Recruitment and retention, currently, the membership stands at 57 members. I think right around 60 is where they like to keep it. To date, or as of the meeting, the calls for service for 2022 was 407 calls in the year. And the Kentville Fire Department, or Kentville Volunteer Fire Department, is looking to purchase a new thermal imaging camera for truck number 12. The old one is not operational. Also, the EVT, and I can't remember his first name, but Mr. Cook is retiring. Kentville Police Commission, I will let Chair York go through that. She was elected chair of the Board of Police Commission. January the 18th, Kings Point to Point. Some of the items of discussion were inclement weather procedure, which they're using the school board. So when the school board says we're off for 2 hours, they're mimicking. Also, discussion was accessible transportation. Of course, the Rural Transit Solution Grant, which some were I wasn't, but some were present that Monday. And they also talked board recruitment. I think they would like some more civilians on the board. And that is my report. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Councillor Huntley. Oh, sorry.
Through the
Deputy Mayor.
chair.
Certainly.
Councillor Gerard, do we know when the meeting is for the fire service, the ratepayer, when the rates are set?
I don't, but I will find that out.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry.
No, it's all right.
And to follow up on that, please ask them not to do it the same night as our council meeting. Well, if they don't want to see us, they can, but if they want to see us. Councillor Huntley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Excuse me. Last council meeting was, CAC was December 12th, and the last council was in November. And I listed a few committee meetings. One of the Kings Remo REMAC, there was quite a number of topics to be held, and you'll see in page 14 and 15 of my report. I showed a couple of the comments that I had asked about the comfort centers and can you bring pets? And the other thing was pictures of their new brochures that they have released, and they're hoping to get those really out to the public. Excuse me. Into the Kentville events, there's 3 or 4 that are listed. One of the ones I want to focus on was the Cadence Academy's Nutcracker. It was so wonderful to see so many Kentville residents involved up on stage. A couple of them were my neighbors, so it was pretty exciting for sure. There's a list of a number of meetings that I had attended, and one of the ones that I want to talk about tonight is the trip to Ottawa for the FCM meeting. Sorry, excuse me. There is a report there to council from the president, and it's quite lengthy, and I hope you get a chance to read it. The other thing that, if I add into it, was one of the things from my trip to Ottawa. I said, as a chosen committee member to participate in FCM's advocacy for our municipalities, it was an opportunity to learn what priorities are being discussed at the table and allows us to have a voice at the table with us growing as a municipality. The report to council was what was attached, and I said, I asked for this report in order to have a more comprehensive read for council and residents. What they normally do is a report from the board, and it goes out to all council, but when people are specifically chosen for these smaller committees in rural areas and broken down, there's normally not a report. So this is something new that hopefully they will continue. During this visit for meetings, I had achieved the following. I was asked to participate in question and answer breakup period with an MP on housing, present the question as Councillor of Kentville, and then the opportunity to express my views on the affordable housing discussion. Built a strong relationship with the FCM team members and expressed the importance of Kentville's voice at all FCM meetings, and building relationships with many of the municipal leaders to discuss what they're doing towards topics of infrastructure, climate housing, and labor challenges in their communities. One of the things with what I really enjoyed was, yes, we are not compared to the larger cities as in obviously people count, but some of the innovative ideas that they're trying for some of these topics was very creative, and it's nice to sit around the table to be able to ask the questions and what's working and what's not. I'm sorry, excuse me. Also with the building relationships, one of the examples, meeting the director of Electoral Area C in BC. He's also apparently an associate professor of social work programming with the University of Northern BC. So over a breakfast meeting, I was able to, after the question was asked, what do you do what's happening in your community? I started to talk about the Mentoring Plus strategy group. He was talking about seniors in his area compared to the youth, and that's how we got on the topic, how it's growing, connecting our youth to business owners. It will also create a positive deposit towards Kentville's future while falling under umbrella of senior care, mental health, and helping our youth succeed. He has asked me to put a presentation together of these topics, and it'll be shared to other professors. And of course, my ask is to be a guest during the online class learnings, so I can talk about Kentville and the size of us and what we are trying to do in the community, and infos to follow on that. Number two, as I arrived for meetings, I was invited to visit the Confederation building and had the opportunity to meet a few MPs, one of which was the Shadow Minister of Seniors, to which I had a chance to talk about Kentville's Mentoring Plus group, the work being done, and benefits to our community. I reached out a week later to thank her for the meeting, and I was informed by her office she is planning to come and meet me in Kentville and would like a town hall meeting for seniors if possible. So right now I'll be working with her office to help make this happen in our community. We also had the opportunity to sit in a meeting in regards to housing. So it was nice to see many representatives from Nova Scotia attend this. The panel was represented by 3 MPs and was an in-depth conversation about challenges, which there are many, and what is planned and things that need to be more focused. And a picture attached of some of us at the meeting. Was able to have a short meeting with Melissa Dubé, and she's the Outreach and Engagement Advisor, Policy and Public Affairs. Have asked moving forward in meetings that I will be attending, if it's possible, to be a guest speaker at the conference to speak about what we are doing in our town, anything that we contribute to our growth, and that not just mentoring and volunteerism and labor shortage and housing, but anything to do with climate related, because I know we are doing a lot of work right there now. And so this keeps the town of Kentville engaged and their voices heard. And one of the things that we talked about, and all the councillors will notice in their emails, that I know we all get the same info, but if you can't make the meeting itself, when you go to try and attend the virtual, the cost is starting at $750, and it goes further than that. So the cost of just sitting in a meeting for free seems to be over. So check that when you're looking at your email for sure. You'll see the report to council. And last but not least, I wanted to congratulate to the approximate 100 businesswomen in Annapolis Valley who were nominated for the RBC Women of Influence, the Canadian Women Entrepreneur Awards. It's an honor to be amongst the 10,000 women across Canada nominated. Congratulations to the Valley Women's Business Network, founded in 2000 by visionary local women residents. Was awarded a certificate of appreciation for their 23 years of networking, bursary awards, and helping to promote women in business, and currently has a 40-plus membership and growing. We had the privilege to meet with 9 nonprofit groups to learn about their needs and to make sure they know about grants that are available during specific times throughout the year. I sent a suggestion to our office about possibly doing the same idea that Kings County will be doing. So they're holding a meeting for groups to learn about the grants and how to apply. A note was sent to me from a resident about possibly doing this as well. That resident is not here tonight, so I don't want to mention her name without the approval. So the other thing is, I had made a suggestion about the following idea, because if you have noticed on social media, a lot of fur babies seem to be getting lost. I said, instead of charging a $15 fee for registering dogs, is there a way to allow for the whole month of April for people for free to register their dog's info, owner, address, etc.? This may help when residents are finding lost dogs and trying to find their owners much quicker. I would like to congratulate the AVCC Physician Recruitment and Retention Program for being awarded funding from the Office of Healthcare Recruitment, $77,000, to continue all of their great work, and congratulations to all involved. Last note, congratulations to Kings Point to Point Transit for being awarded funding from the federal government. There was two awards. One was $330,000 and another was $90,000 for new vehicles to their fleet. It was a great job by all. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Maxwell.
Thank you. I've attended all my council meetings and CAC meetings. I did include the December 2nd Inclusion and Accessibility Committee. I did a report on that. I may have done it at the last meeting, I'm not sure. But our director certainly did a good review of that, so I'm not going to read it, but it's there for anybody who wants to read it. December 8th, I attended the Annapolis Valley Trails Coalition Board meeting, and I have a report on that. And January 6th, I attended the Inclusion and Accessibility Committee meeting, and I have a report attached to that. Town of Kentville event synopsis. On January 5th, I took part in the Department of Justice training session, which was an online review of the Police Act and role of the Police Commission. And I believe it was January 9th was the Jubilee Medal presentations, which I also attended but forgot to put it on my list here. So let's go down here. For the Annapolis Valley Trail Coalition, Trail Coordinator Rick has been seconded to work on the trail cleanup from Truro North due to hurricane damage. This work will help us reevaluate our own emergency plans. There were discussions about perhaps projecting our work plans out 5 years ahead. Also discussed how to maximize trail use during the winter months. So how do we get more people out onto the trails? I don't think it's a problem right now because the trails seem to be free of any problem, but there's no snow. There was discussion about looking at sectioning off certain parts of the Harvest Moon Trail for specific uses, like cross-country skiing might be in Kentville, snowshoeing might be at a section in Wolfville, snowmobiling and so on might be down Berwick Way. And so, you know, trying to direct people to different sections of the trail for different winter activities. And there was no firm decisions made there. It was just discussion, so this would probably go into our 5-year plan and looking to maybe make some changes in the future. Part of the future planning will be a look at washrooms on the trail. Are they necessary? Are they not necessary? And so this is something that the Trail Coalition is looking at. Opening maybe more sections to snowmobiles. That's something that's will probably be on a discussion, and so on. Nova Scotia Trails is restructuring their board, the major restructure from 23 down to 8 people. This will allow them to respond to issues more quickly as 23 people slowed the process down. So it's kind of hard to get quick decisions made when you've got 23 on your board, and so they're taking that down to 8 so they can respond much more quickly. The coalition is applying for 3 summer students this summer, and a package will come to all recreation departments on trail etiquette and will be titled We Share Trails, so our recreation department will get that. There is a need, we're finding a need to educate trail users on proper etiquette and respecting all users. So with the coming of e-bikes and so on the trails, walkers are finding those coming up on them really, really fast, and they're traveling at pretty good speed. So those types of issues need to be addressed with trail etiquette. And so that's the coalition. The Inclusion and Accessibility Committee, last meeting we had, the efficiency audit for Town Hall has been completed. The approach lights for the bridge are up. However, we still have questions concerning lighting and sidewalk safety on the bridge. And I believe the CAO is going to pursue that, probably with a letter or something. We established a task team to look at the submissions for renaming Cornwallis Street. So that process is about to begin. Sport Nova Scotia has adaptive equipment and will lend it out, which is good for the public to know. And we are looking at what we have that can also be lent out. We discussed what the term accessibility lens means. So when we look at something with an accessibility lens to it, sometimes that has a different meaning to each person that's sitting around the table, and what it means to each of us and what it will mean moving forward. The group feels a parking study needs to be conducted with a focus on accessibility. So how many accessibility spaces do we have? Is access from those spaces onto the sidewalk acceptable? Those types of things. As well, the language in the land use bylaw needs to be reworked so we can apply a more enhanced accessibility lens and enable better enforcement. The group is also looking at how we assess sidewalks, and so from an accessibility standard and putting an assessment tool in place. So we need to develop an assessment tool for looking at the sidewalks with the lens of accessibility, and are they working, and what needs to be repaired and replaced and so on. The committee put forth a motion to establish a subcommittee for transportation, which passed. It was noted that KBC also needs to be involved with that aspect as well. And that's my report.
Thank you very much. Deputy, go ahead, Deputy
Just a
Mayor.
question, thank you, Worship, through the chair. There is a person, a representative from KBC on the kayak committee now? Or is, I guess I'm asking.
Not that I know of.
Okay. Nothing was gonna happen.
Well, I don't think it's happened yet.
Just happened yet, okay. Okay, great, thank you.
All right, Deputy Mayor, your turn.
Okay, thank you. So last CAC and last council meeting attended as the rest around the horseshoe. December 14th was Investment Advisory Committee. We had an update from our investment advisor on the status of the perpetual fund. We're just north of 13 million, and there were no new updates from the previous month. December 15th was Regional Sewer, where we had operational updates, and there were some discussions around desludging primarily, and also discussions on budget timelines. January the 11th was another Investment Advisory Committee, where the portfolio stands at 13.6 million. We upgraded the quality of the portfolio while staying within the parameters of the IPS, the Investment Policy Statement, with minor changes only. No real change to income is expected as a result of this change. January 16th was the REMAC committee meeting. We had an election of the chair and deputy chair. I was reelected as chair. We had updates on mutual aid agreements, King's Remo program updates, comfort stations, community outreach, social media, and VPR, which is a vulnerable person registry. So I just kind of wanted to just spend a tiny bit of time on that. The vulnerable person registry is for any Kings County resident without 24-hour support who experiences severe difficulty with mobility, vision, hearing, developmental, cognitive, and mental health. And of course, our King's Remo is responsible for providing a prompt and coordinating response to emergencies that occur within its jurisdiction. And so just a plug for Dan Stovall. He heads up our King's Remo team, and he is an amazing person. He does an amazing job, and he's always sending us out messages, and we're getting more and more folks going on the Facebook site to hear what the updates are for weather, COVID, things like that. So I just wanted to do a little plug for him, because we're really fortunate to have him at the helm with that committee. January the 19th was Regional Sewer Committee. We had operational and compliance updates. We had a finance update. It was the draft 2023-2024 budget for operating and capital. There were some line items that are under further review, as there was a general consensus that same needed to see some form of reduction. Some of those items being monitoring, maintenance, and support services. More to come on this. We have a meeting this coming Thursday, so hopefully we'll be bringing back something to council at the end of February. Right. January 25th was the Star Tourism presentation by the Valley Wren. January 2023 were discussions with various citizens, mainly around paving and sidewalks. January the 5th, I attended the Department of Justice training. January the 20th was a joint Rotary meeting where I attended to hear Michelle Thompson, the Minister of Health, speak. Very, very interesting speaker. November the 24th, I attended the visitation for Doug Morrison at Main Street Station. Certainly a great man in our community who will be missed. I had the pleasure of attending Rotary with Doug for 10 plus years, and each Monday he had a different story. He was a very interesting and fun man, so he will be missed. December 6th was the MLA Christmas party, Minister John Lohr, where I had the pleasure of seeing Minister Lohr deliver a series of the Queen's Jubilee medals to a variety of recipients, some from the town of Kentville. December the 12th was the Jubilee Medal Ceremony. Recipients included members of Town of Kentville staff and Kentville Police staff as well. Lindsay, Rachel, Jerry, and Marty. A great show for those folks. December 16th was the police breakfast in support of the Salvation Army and the food bank, Not Back. December 16th was I attended the opening of Maynard Bent and Fagan, MBF. Amazing new building, location on our main street in downtown Kentville. Lovely, lovely inside. December 21st was the Valley Business Hub Christmas Gathering, and then also I attended the Kentville Business Community Christmas Gathering. And that is my report.
All right, thank you very much. Councillor York.
Thank you. Again, I've attended all of my council meetings, and my committee meetings have been very well recapped. Thank you, Councillor Maxwell, for the Kentville Inclusion and Access Committee recap. I attended some police commission training sessions. They were orientation sessions, rather. They were hosted with Chief Butler and Deputy Chief Smith, but we also had Ashley Ettinger, who's the Community Crisis Navigator, present the same presentation that she gave to CAC in November, I believe, possibly December. It's kind of running together. But she gave that to our police commission so that they were fully aware of what was happening. But even in the time span between when she presented to council and when she presented to our Board of Police Commissioners, the amount of people that she was able to divert from the criminal justice system had increased again, and it's nearer to 50 or 60 than it was at 40 when she presented to us. So that's a position that's continuing to grow through her stewardship and through her ability to connect with the residents in this town who need it the most. I attended the Diversity Kings meeting at the beginning of December as an alternate. It was my first time attending a meeting like that, and it was wonderful. They were planning the upcoming celebrations and how we would promote the upcoming celebrations for African Nova Scotia Heritage Month. So it was interesting to be in on that ground level. And we also had a presentation from Mentoring Plus, where the committee was asking some pretty hard questions, and I expect there to be some changes that come out of it and some new promotions that will come out of it as well. A couple of regional recreation facility meetings that were just kind of next step discussion meetings and working group meetings. There was a source water protection meeting last week, as well as the police commission meeting where our first official police commission meeting. We welcomed our new board members, and I was elected the chair. That was after our citizen members declined the position. They didn't feel they were able to give at the time this year. We do have a vice chair in Virginia who will be a citizen representative. So I'm eager to get on with what's happening at the police commission and move some strategic planning forward. Like everyone has mentioned previously, we attended the Diamond Jubilee medal ceremonies where town employees were honored, which was a wonderful celebration of the hard work and dedication of those particular employees. So it was quite lovely to see that. And that's my report.
All right, thank you very much. Counselor Maxwell.
Thank you. Through the chair, please, to Councillor York.
Certainly.
I've had several citizens asking me about what the status is of the recreation facility. Could you give a little bit more detail on exactly what has taken place and where things stand?
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. So council has been briefed to date where we are with the RFP. So we have put out the request for proposals and we are moving through stage one. It was determined that before we jump to stage two, we kind of need a halfway point. That stage two seemed to be a bit of a jump from where we had finished with stage one. So staff at the moment are compiling some questions and we're working through. But a lot of that is in-camera information, so I can't go too much further in this setting, but just that staff are working very diligent, staff being the recreation staff from the County of Kings, Town of Wolfville and Town of Kentville, are working really closely with the elected officials and also the citizens and designated sort of, or identified user groups to figure out what's best for them and what's best for our region, and then bringing those questions and concerns and queries back to the group before we jump to stage two. So we're in stage 1.5, and that's, I think we're comfortable leaving it, I'm comfortable leaving it there. Thank you, thank you.
All right. Counselor Xavier.
Thank you. My report's enclosed. I had a light month, but all my dates are there. I am gonna just make a couple of comments to the citizens of Kentville. And most of you know I love this town and I'm blessed to live and work here. It's something I'm thankful for every day. And being on this council definitely hasn't been easy. And it does wear you down, not because of the citizens, because I love hearing from the citizens and I'm always willing to try and help them and do what I can. But today I came here hoping for, an easy, happy, good meeting, and a little discouraged before I left home when I am seeing that we're still taking letters from the public and they're being censored. Citizens are discouraged from engaging. We've shut them down on social media. Tonight, though, we had another incident where a citizen wrote a letter to council. They took the time, sent it to us, and I'm sure most of us here don't like what was in it, or some of us may not. I can't speak for you, but that's not the point. It was added to the agenda, and then magically, today at some point or another, it was deleted off the website. And when I think of this and I look at this, what message are we sending to the public? And I always remember, I go back to when I was running in this election, my late father, we would be driving in the car, and he said, you're gonna win, but make sure you listen to the people. Make sure you listen to the people. He always embedded that in my brain, and that is the number one thing I will take from my 4 years here. So to the public watching, listening, I don't support censorship. I'm listening to all of you, so keep sending your letters. I'm reading them. I'm understanding what you're saying. And just as an end note, while all of this has been difficult at times to sit up here, I remember that, you guys, the citizens, pay for us to sit in these big black leather chairs. And the more that this continues, and it's wrong, I'm gonna say that in my opinion, the more it continues, the more I'm gonna work harder for Kentville, and the more I'm gonna listen, and that's what I'm here for. Thank you.
Thank you. CAO Troke, could you please provide council with an update on the operational matters discussed 2 weeks ago at our CIC meeting?
Perfect, thank you so much, Mayor Snow. So, the deputy mayor talked about regional sewers. So, one of the big parts about this time of year with regional sewers, the preliminary budget's being presented. There's a lot of technical work, so shout out to the technical committee here in Town Hall. Dave Bell does a great job of preparing us for going into those sessions. There is a number of questions outstanding around the budget, so there's a meeting this week in which we're hoping to be able to discuss and get some further dialogue so we can bring back a package for council's consideration. Kings Remo, of course, and I concur with the deputy's comments around Dan Stovall. The man does the job of about 10 people, so I cannot say enough about the information he shares, but also about helping us to work through details and the various agreements. Intermunicipal service, there's been a meeting just to continue with the work there. There's been some work with the nonprofit communities coming out of the work around the Housing Action Plan. Basically, there's data which is going to be coming out from Acadia University with regards to a point-in-time homelessness count. And so we're really trying to prepare to get the groups back together to how this data will feel into the work that's been already done. Interviews are underway for the Director of Finance position. We had a great response. First round of interviews are done. Hopefully going to be moving to second round of interviews this week, pending schedules. There was some discussion here around the energy efficiency from Town Hall. That work, of course, has to dovetail with the accessibility work that needs to happen. So we're moving forward with the information to be able to capture what kind of services and supports we're going to need to bring forward more data to council to put this in a comprehensive package. So just a few quick updates from the last couple weeks.
Thanks, CAO. Question, Councillor Zabian.
Thank you, Mayor Snow. CAO, I emailed last week. I'm sure you've been busy. If you could send us the original copy of the HR policy so that when I do my RFD, I'll have some background. Otherwise, we're going to come back in 2 weeks and I'm going to ask that question again and then we're going to go into the next meeting. So would that be possible to get a copy of that?
Sorry.
Go ahead, CAO.
There, I believe, is a paper version of the 1979 document that is available. So we'll see if we can get that scanned and sent to council. Just remind council that this human resource document, what we're operating off of, was compiled by staff, essentially approved by staff and brought forward to the CAO. So I'd strongly recommend that council really focus on the information that staff put together as part of what they needed in order to be able to move forward as a strong team.
Thank you. So just, I guess I'm confused now. It's been a long day. So the new one is just a draft then?
No,
The one
it's
that we
up-
got the other day?
It's operational. That's what staff work with.
Okay, but council has to approve policies. That's what I'm not, but I can put that in RFD if that's what
Thank
Mayor Snow
you.
wants, but.
No, it's not what Mayor Snow wants.
Well, that's what
It's,
you told me in the
yes,
beginning.
that was the
So-
instruction I gave to
Right.
you based on our policies.
Okay, and I don't mind if the old one comes on paper. I love paper. Doesn't have to be digitized. Don't go through all that trouble for me. It can come and if it was typed on a typewriter, I'm fine with that. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor,
Thank you, Worship. If I could direct this to the CAO.
please.
So just a couple of items with respect to, because we've been seeing some emails and there have been some commentary in the community about the live streaming and the Facebook, the live streaming on Facebook and some of the comments. And I know that words like censorship have been used here tonight. So I need to have a little bit more information around that. I know some folks around the Horseshoe have more information, just because they're more apt in the social media world perhaps than I am, but maybe just a little bit around that. And then also around the correspondence piece with respect to the correspondence that was posted and now is no longer. Just a little bit of clarity around that. Thank you.
CAO?
Sure. So with regards to any posts on Facebook, I mean, Facebook has its own, so we operate off of the most current platform. Of course, our manager of IT makes sure that we're up to date. Anytime that a post is hidden, that may be driven either off of something from the community, but also typically if a post is started from an entity that doesn't have any background in a public forum, then that is typically hidden. So let's just say something starts off that has no connections or is a brand new entity, then Facebook treats that as if it's not a real person and it hides it. And any comments that would be attached to that would be hidden. Now, I'm not the expert on social media, so certainly I leave that to our folks. So there is no censorship by staff. These are essentially what Facebook does as an operating procedure. Or if someone were to have a concern as a member of the public to Facebook, Facebook does its own thing. The second thing, just with regards to letters, and I think, guess, you know, we work off of the assumption that when someone asks for correspondence to be included, certainly we do that. But then we also look at it from a lens of, is there anything in there that is either rumor or something that may be inappropriate speculation, say about staff or about another individual. So in the case of the document that was put up and removed, I had an opportunity over the weekend to have some conversation with the solicitor. And I'm happy if there is a discussion would like to take place with council in camera with regards to anything that's a legal matter. But certainly any time that a document goes beyond discussing comments towards staff, or once you get into comments about staff, former staff or whatnot, those are things that you're starting to go beyond comment to council and starting to talk about personnel comments.
Councillor Sabian.
Thank you, Mayor Snow. Thanks, CAO, and Deputy Mayor Savage asked my question, the first one. I don't really understand what you mean by a new entity and they're being shut down, because my business has been on social media for years, and I can put a post up and get 150 comments in an hour, and I've never seen that happen before. It's almost like hourly on the Kentville page. First of all, the public can't comment during a meeting. That was the original setup, and then it became, you could comment after, but now it seems like you could comment now and then you could go back 20 minutes later, and it's back now to shut off. So I don't necessarily know if that's Facebook. I don't know. To me, I don't understand why it would be triggered all the time. There's something wrong there, because how long has Kentville had this Facebook page? 10 years at least, probably? And I've never seen that happen before, ever. I've never seen comments disappear and be hidden and then shown. And so I don't know. If it's a glitch, it's a glitch, but there's something wrong there. Thank you.
Councillor York.
Through the chair, if I might.
Certainly.
So I reached out to the communications team, and I have emailed some people who have emailed me and explained it as best I could. And CAO has said he is not Facebook savvy, and I believe when you say new entity, perhaps you mean new profile. So the original commenter might be a new profile, or that profile might be newly created, doesn't have any connection, doesn't have any friends, and that profile is being flagged by the Facebook filters. And so any conversations that happen between people who have 75 friends, have been on Facebook for 5.5 years, are being flagged and covered with the filter, because it's in response to a profile that has raised the red flag. So it's not every citizen question comment that's being hidden. It's that it's tied to the original new profile that may be questionable. So that all stems to the same filtration by the Facebook flags that our staff cannot change. That's built into Facebook's back end. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Maxwell.
Thank you. I don't know very much about technology and Facebook comments and so on, but one thing that I think is that this is our meeting. It's council's meeting. And I don't ever recall voting on, whether we would have comments or we wouldn't have comments, or, if comments would be taken down because, staff was uncomfortable with them, or, whatever. So I think maybe the time is coming when we need to have a discussion on what we want to take place in our meeting. Personally, I don't see any reason why comments can't be made during the meeting. To me, I think if people are watching and they feel they want to make a comment and they just and send a comment, there's no problem with that. I think these are issues that we should address as a council, because this meeting is our meeting. It's not staff's meeting or anybody else's meeting, it's our meeting. And so I would suggest maybe we put it on an agenda in the future here, maybe next month, that council discusses this. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything further, CAO?
Nope.
Okay. So my report, as you can see, it's been a little bit busy. A couple of highlights. Jubilee medals, of course, on the 12th of December, ceremony presentation with our staff, and you know, it was absolutely one of those incredible moments. I also had the pleasure of attending something called Spotlight by National in Halifax on the 7th of December. And it was all about reclaiming your digital space and how women politicians stop online hate with Dr. Mireille Lalancette from the University of Quebec City. And she actually showed us MP Melanie Jolie's Facebook page, and she has a full list of her do's and don'ts on her page, and you know what can stay on the page and what goes, sort of thing. So one of the things that Dr. Lalancette was saying is that with social media, is that if you put your rules there, they're your rules, and that's not censorship. Somebody can say something, but they can't break the rules that you have established. So it was a really great presentation, and the folks that were there, I'm going to say, were from all walks of life, not just politicians. And I also had the privilege of hearing her speak in Regina, and again, she had a full room. She's absolutely amazing. So if you ever have the opportunity to hear her, she's very, very good at doing that. 5th of January, I did Justice Department training for the Board of Police Commission. Again, a great session, you know, lots of open dialogue, so that was very nice. Last week, we did our Source Water Advisory Committee meeting, and just for public knowledge, in December, the Town of Kentville Water Commission completed the 5-year sampling of our water system, and it was excellent results. So they did something, like Dave said, 12 coolers worth of water that was taken at different times of the day, different parts of the town, and they even had to put it in different types of containers for this federal sampling, and this happens every 5 years. So anyway, our water system is in excellent shape. The ongoing work for the new well continues, and it will trigger a new source water plan, because the new well will give us you know, kind of new circles out from it where certain businesses can and cannot operate. Under the Water Commission, we had a couple of account write-offs, and there was a new motor installed in December, and they continue to keep an eye on the life cycle of our pumps. And otherwise, everything is well in that business. And from there, I attended several miscellaneous events, including Valley Voices. I got to be their master of ceremony again. I did it once before COVID, and since COVID, this was the first time they had got together to sing out loud, and it was one of those great events that you attend. I also got to be on the radio for a couple hours on the 15th of December with Uncle D on Rewind. So that was kind of fun. And on the 18th of December, saw MP Cody Blois at his holiday open house in Hansport. Now, one of the real great places that I was last week was the Nova Scotia Fruit Growers Association was having their AGM at the Old Orchard. And I know that you know, we realize how important the industry is, but sometimes it's just looking at the effect. So $18 million worth of export from that association, 17 million of which are apples. So it's pretty incredible. I also got to attend the funding announcement at Kings Point to Point, 330,000 K from the Federal Rural Transit Fund and 90K from the Accessibility Fund, and they will purchase 4 new vehicles. The other thing is Kings Point to Point is actually celebrating their 25th year in operation this year. They started in Canning with 2 vehicles, and they now have 14 vehicles, and you see them everywhere. And they have really expanded their service. So, you know, we tend to often think of Kings Point to Point as our para service, but they're so much more than that. And for example, if you wanted to do a wine tour, they will actually, if they have a vehicle available, you can actually book a vehicle and pay them to take you on a wine tour. Or if you wanted to go to the airport, or if you had an appointment in the city, particularly people that have to go in for eye appointments where you get that stuff stuck in your eyes and you can't see for a while, they will do that sort of thing. So, but they need 24 hours. So this is not like a taxi service where you phone them up and 5 minutes later they're at your back door. This is planned transportation. And so it's pretty incredible and definitely a feather in the hat of our region. And that is my report. Thank you. All right, moving on to, certainly. Sorry, Deputy Mayor.
That's all right. Thank you, Your Worship. Just had a question about point to point, Kings Point to Point. They're germane just to Kings. Obviously, they're germane just to Kings. Does any other municipality have something like a Kings Point to Point?
Yes, but they're not all called that.
Okay.
Pictos is called their rural transportation.
Okay.
Digby has another name for theirs, and you'll often see their vehicle at the hospital because they do a hospital run. So pretty much each of the regions has one of these, what we call rural transportation.
Yeah. It's very important.
Yeah, they
Thank
really
you.
are.
Okay, thank you.
All right, moving on to our new business. The first item of new business is the Accessibility Committee with a citizen member appointment. And I would call on Councillor Maxwell to present the recommendation from the committee. Councillor?
Thank you. As stated in policy G57, committees of council, council has the right to appoint citizens to each committee based on the required skills and experience needed. In this policy, it is also stated that the Kentville Inclusion and Access Advisory Committee shall have 7 members, including 2 members of council. Additionally, 3 of the members must be persons with disabilities. The existing citizen members of the Kentville Inclusion and Access Advisory Committee are Laurel Taylor, who is the chair, Gerald McPherson, who is the vice chair, Bernie Zink, and Yuning Pan. A vacancy occurred on the committee in September of 2022. However, a citizen has applied to join the committee. Staff and I recommend that Ms. Holly Rogers be appointed by council to sit on the Kentville Inclusion and Access Advisory Committee. Her appointment will allow the membership of this group to meet the requirements set out in Policy Statement G57, Committees of Council. And I move that we do this. Thank you.
Thank you. Seconder, please. Councillor York, thank you. It has been moved and seconded that council approve the appointment of Holly Rogers to the Accessibility Committee for a 2-year period from January 2023 to January 2025. Is there any discussion on this matter? Are you ready for the question? The question is on adoption of the motion to approve the appointment of Holly Rogers to the Accessibility Committee for a 2-year period from January of 2023 to January of 2025. Voting is now open. Voting is now closed. And the motion is carried. Thank you very much. Our next item is Heritage Committee appointments. CAO, could you present the recommendation for citizen appointments to the newly formed Heritage Committee?
Thank you, Mayor Snow. So just following in the footsteps of Councillor Maxwell's format, the statement and policy statement G57, committees of council, the council has the right to appoint citizens to each committee. So for the development of the Heritage Committee, staff attempted to find citizens with an experience in history, architect, property ownership or management, accounting and finances, property law. The following citizens have identified as having some or all of the above skills, interest, and experience and are recommended to become citizen members of the Heritage Committee. Of course, the Heritage Committee, Councillor Maxwell, Councillor Zabian would be the council representatives on the newly formed committee. So the names which we're bringing forward is Dan Booth of Niche Homes, Louis Comeau, Kentville Historical Society, Steph Jacob is involved in the construction field. Brendan Kilfoyle with Pace Atlantic, and Scott Pope, Northeast Kings Education Center.
Thank you, CAO. And taking that recommendation and turning it into a motion that council approve the following citizen appointments to the Heritage Committee for a 2-year period from January 2023 to November of 2025. Dan Booth, Niche Homes, Louis Camo, Kentville Historical Society, Steph Jacob, Construction, Brendan Kilfoyle, Pace Atlantic, and Scott Pope, Northeast Kings Education Center. If someone could move that, please. Councillor Huntley for the motion and Deputy Mayor for the second. Thank you. It has been moved and seconded that council approve the following citizen appointments to the Heritage Committee for a 2-year period from January of 2023 to November of 2025. Dan Booth with Niche Homes, Louis Camo, Kentville Historical Society, Steph Jacob, Construction, Brendan Kilfoyle, Pace Atlantic, and Scott Pope, Northeast Kings Education Center. Is there any discussion on this matter? Councillor Zabia.
I think Solicitor Matar might have something to say before we discuss.
Your worship, if I just might, I just
Oh,
caution.
could I, okay, go now.
I just want to caution you with the organizations that these people belong to. We don't want it to be suggested down the road by a council who doesn't, perhaps wasn't around this council, that these were representative positions. You're appointing the individuals and not, and where they're from is irrelevant other than to their experience.
Okay.
So those, I would suggest that just including their names is what should be in the
Okay.
motion and leave the rest out.
Okay, thank you. So, Councillor Huntley, Deputy Mayor, that amendment, a friendly amendment, and, thank you. Councillor Zabin.
Thank you. I guess that was gonna be my question. What criteria was used in coming up with this list? And who came up with it would be my questions. Thank you.
CAO, based on the memorandum?
Yes, so essentially, loosely what we were looking for is anybody with background in history, architecture, property ownership management, accounting, property law. And as the council will note, it took a while to start getting names coming in. So these folks were kind of first in the gate, and we also, in a few cases, wanted to make sure that we would have broad representation from all of these areas. So really, we were able to get, I believe, enough names in order to fit the list. And if we had any duplicate, and I do believe we may have had a few people interested from the Kentville Historical Society, but Louis Camo was the first person in the door.
Councillor Maxwell.
Thank you. My question isn't really about the names here, but I'm just wondering who the staff person is on this committee to help direct the process of developing a bylaw.
So typically what would happen starting out in a committee, it'd probably be myself and the deputy clerk to get things going. And then we could figure out the most appropriate connection at that point in time.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor York.
Thank you, and if I might, through the chair, CEO, how many people did we get, or how many people applied? And then from that list, did any women apply for the positions?
I'm going to actually defer to the deputy clerk to give me total numbers.
So we have 5 listed here. I believe there was 1 additional person who
Okay.
applied. No, 2 additional people who applied.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anything further discussion? Are you ready for the, oh,
Sorry. Were there any women who applied?
There were
Those 2.
2 women
Okay.
who applied, yes.
are we ready for the question? The question is to recommend approval of the following citizen appointments to the Heritage Committee for a period of 2 years, from January 2023 to November of 2025. Dan Booth, Louis Camo, Steph Jacob, Brendan Kilfoyle, and Scott Pope. Voting is now open. Voting is now closed, and the motion is carried. Thank you. Our next item of business is Rogers Telecommunications site lease, and CAO Troke, could you please take us through the details of the lease and for council's review and approval of the 5-year lease?
Sure thing. Thank you, Mayor Snow. So Rogers Telecommunication lease, they can lease land from town on Chester Avenue. These leases have been in existence since 2002, typically running a 5-year term. There's an escalation clause that goes back from the original lease that basically looks at CPI as an escalation clause year over year. So years in which CPI is high, the number goes up higher. When it's lower, it's a little bit lower. So when you carry forward from the last lease the inflation, that essentially we would be looking at an annual rent commencing on September 1st of 2022, and then ending on August 31st, the annual rent from the period of September 1st, 2022, ending August 31st of 2023 would be $6,260. And then that number would be adjusted up annually based on the CPI index.
Thank you, CAO. And you are recommending that lease?
Correct.
And the motion would be that council approve the Rogers Telecommunication 5-year site lease from the 1st of September 2022 to the 31st of August 2027. If someone could move that, please. Councillor Huntley, thank you. The seconder, Deputy Mayor, thank you. It has been moved and seconded that council approve the Rogers Telecommunication 5-year lease from the 1st of September 2022 to the 31st of August 2027. Is there any discussion on this matter? There being no discussion, are you ready for the question? The question is on adoption of the motion to approve the Rogers Telecommunication 5-year site lease from the 1st of September 2022 to the 31st of August 2027. Voting is now open. Voting is now closed. And the motion is carried. Thank you. And the next is the Kentville Police Service pre-approval of vehicle purchase. And Chair York, I will ask you to present that, please.
Thank you. So there's a letter in our packet from Chief Butler that explains the need or his need for getting pre-approval. So he requests that council approve the advance of capital funding from the 2023-2024 capital investment plan for the purchase of a marked police vehicle in support of Kentville Police Service operations at a cost of $70,000. I so move.
Thank you. And a seconder? Second. Deputy Mayor, thank you. It has been moved and seconded that council approve the advance of capital funding from the 2023-2024 capital investment plan for the purchase of a marked police vehicle in support of Kentville Police Service operations at a cost of $70,000. Is there any discussion on this matter? There being no discussion, are you ready for the question? The question is on adoption of the motion to approve the advance of capital funding from the 2023-2024 capital investment plan for purchase of a marked police vehicle in support of the Kentville Police Service operations at a cost of $70,000. Voting is now open. Voting is now closed. And the motion is carried. Thank you. And Councillor York, congratulations on your election as the Chair of the Police Commission.
Thank you.
All right, our next piece of new business is a Valley Waste temporary borrowing resolution. And CAO Troke, could you bring council up to date on the TBR requirements?
Thank you, Mayor Snow. So Valley Regional Waste Resource Management Authority is looking for essentially a guarantee that will allow them to entertain the 2023 spring debenture that will be issued. As part of this temporary borrowing resolution, this would go towards capital projects, so a 4x4 pickup, automated scale house window, utility trailer, and scale software totaling $174,000. Of course, the town of Kentville which is an approximately a 10% contributor. So essentially, at the end of the day, Kentville is one of multiple members who need to pass a temporary boring resolution in order for the Valley Regional Solid Waste Resource Management Authority to then participate in the spring debenture. So the motion would be essentially that council approve Valley Waste temporary boring resolution of January 2023 for $174,000, of which Kentville's share is 10.23% or $17,800.
Thank you, CAO. If I could have someone move that, please. Councillor York, thank you. And a seconder? Deputy Mayor, thank you. It has been moved and seconded that council approve the Valley Waste temporary borrowing resolution dated January 23rd for $174,000, of which the town of Kentville share is 10.23% or $17,800. Is there any discussion on this matter? Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Worship. Through the chair to the CAO.
Certainly.
CAO, if the other partners don't agree with this, then I'm assuming our decision becomes null and void, I'm thinking?
So yes, I guess in essence it would.
Yeah.
Typically, that's not the process.
No. But you
I-
do need all the partners at the
Correct,
table.
yeah,
for-
so the
for-
partners must
yeah.
pass identical resolutions on their behalf.
Okay.
Which then allows for the temporary borrowing resolution to be passed by the authority.
Which is essentially, we're just signing the guarantee in support of. Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anything further on this matter? Are you ready for the question? The question is on adoption of the motion to approve the Valley Waste temporary borrowing resolution dated January 2023 for $174,000, of which the town of Kentville share is 10.23% or $17,800. Voting is now open. Voting is now closed, and the motion is carried. Thank you very much. All right, our next item of business is correspondence. CAO, did you wish to speak further on this, or?
I think it was covered in the question that was asked.
Okay, thank you very much. Then we move on to our public comments. Citizens are invited to make comments to council on any matter currently before council. Please state your name and address, and you will be provided with 3 minutes. And I'm right here.
Good evening, Your Worship, councilors, and to the citizens of the town of Kentville who are actually where this is being live streamed. I'm the author of the letter that's in question that I issued to council. First thing that I want to make absolutely clear is that my one of the first statements that I made, maybe not the first, but in the first paragraph, was that if there was anything of the assumptions or the scenarios that I presented, that I perceived have gone on since this council has been put in place, if I am wrong in any of them, and just so you're aware, I would love to be wrong. So if anybody can clear up any of them for me, make me feel more comfortable, I truly would welcome that. But in the last 2 years, and I have written many, many letters to this council, and for some reason, they all seem to must be falling under the criteria that the CAO Troke has identified for us tonight, because when you see correspondence, they're never there, not ever. But again, what I have said in every one of those items is this is what I've perceived, this is my opinion of looking at it and critiquing it to the best that I can. Please help me understand. Please help clarify, make me feel comfortable with this. This last one, and none of you, the CAO is the official spokesperson, I believe. He never answers me, not anything. I don't even get an acknowledgement. The last one, this very same one, I did hear from, because I saw some crazy things going on with the comments on the live stream, and I reached out to Jennifer, And she responded with the technical reasons of what was happening, and then Councillor York did exactly the same thing, and it made sense. It made perfect sense. I got it, and I issued every one of you an apology for my ill thoughts about those comments. So once again, the scenarios that I played is to the best of my knowledge of what happened or what's been happening. It doesn't mean I'm right. It just means that it is what, as a concerned citizen, what I'm perceiving is going on here. So tomorrow, since you're not willing to publish it or answer any of them, I'll publish it on Facebook. And I will ask you councillors to share that, because the citizens of the town, maybe some citizen might know the answers to some of this and help me clarify in my mind as to what's going on. Because I want you to be good council. I want this to work. But like, this is the answer? This is what we get? That we're not only are we not going to answer any of these questions, but we're also not even going to make it part of the public record that a citizen is actually asking these questions? Again, I may not be right. Show me where I'm wrong. Help me understand. Am I that wrong asking those questions? Like, every one of you should at least be able to do that. Like, that's what you're elected for. That's the office that you hold. You have the public trust. And if I'm wrong, help me understand where I'm wrong. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Your Worship, members of council. I'm Dennis Keogh, 29 Leash Boulevard, Kentville, member of council for 11 years, employee to town for 11 years. Have a little bit of experience. My question through the chair to the CEO is, could you please point me to the specific town policy that determines what makes correspondence on this document? I'd like that answer now, please, and I have a follow-up to that. If you don't have a policy, you should put it on the agenda for CAC next month. So I'm still waiting for an answer. What policy are you using?
We have a meeting policy.
Point out that policy. Where is it at?
On the website?
You have a website that tells you how to judge whether correspondence is included in this document. That's what you're trying to tell me? Don't send me away with some ridiculous answer. If it's not there, it's not there. But tell me how you decide what's correspondence. What does it specifically state in your policy? What guidance does it give you to make these decisions? That requires an answer. Like, I'm getting blank stare here. That requires an answer. You're paying this guy over $100,000 a year. He can't answer a simple question like that?
I'm going to ask you to mind your tone when
I'll
speaking.
mind my tone, but I'm still waiting for an answer. I pay your salary.
You are here.
Am I entitled to an answer?
You are here for public comment.
Am I entitled to an answer as a taxpayer?
Not.
No? Oh, apparently I'm not entitled to any answers. My second question possibly would have to go to the solicitor. If I issue a Freedom of Information request for all correspondence that was denied from being shown on this document over the last 6 or 8 months, is that an acceptable forum to get this information out to the public? Thank you.
Thank you.
Two questions, two answers, please. And not next month. You should be able to get back to me tomorrow. If you can't, you shouldn't be here collecting salaries.
All right, public comments is now completed, and we'll move into in camera. The council has several matters concerning legal contracts and code of conduct, which must be conducted in a closed session. We require a motion to go into the closed session to discuss the agenda items, and we will not be returning to Facebook Live for completion of the meeting or adjournment. And the motion is to move into a closed session to discuss the agenda items. Andrew, thank you. Jillian, thank you for the second. It has been moved and seconded that council move into the closed session. The question is on adoption of the motion to move into a closed session. All those in favor? Those opposed, the motion is carried, and the time is 7:34.